What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Purposeful Marketing, marketing with a purpose for the everyday practitioner. I'm James, your host today and moderator. We've got Aaron and Mary both here, thankfully. And today we're talking about an interesting subject with a little bit of a clickbaity lead, which is the idea of campaigns outdated? I'm just going to tee that up to Mary to kind of give us some context and some heat a little bit here.
Yeah, heck yeah. So I think in the context of the segment that I work in, which is mainly industrial B2B manufacturers, the idea of campaigns is like almost like project based. So it's what one-off thing are we going to do to increase sales or increase leads for a particular product or a particular market. So when I was in-house, it was a lot of, we're going to run this ad in this trade show magazine, or we're going to do a banner ad for a month on their calendar, or even like we might have hired an agency to run like a larger project-based campaign. So it might be like, email marketing with some landing pages and cool stuff like that. I think we labeled it as like almost like an ABM thing. So I think that one-off doing a project and calling it marketing with the goal of temporarily increasing sales or leads is outdated because it's not sustainable, it's not scalable. All you're going to end up doing, if it works, let's say, is just spending more money or running more ads, which is difficult to measure anyways. You have to do it through a third party. So almost all of these were through an industry publication, through a vendor, through an agency. So you're always paying somebody else on the in-between, right? So in my mind, that's not sustainable. And to me, seems outdated. How about you, Aaron?
Yeah, this is a great question that impacts performance marketers, which essentially you are doing this activity a lot, right? You are setting up a campaign, launching it, and then reporting on the results back to your client, or if you're in-house, to your leadership team. The reason why this question came about, and I wrote a post on this very question, is I feel like it's just very old way, and I want us to really focus on the new way. And I think, Mary, you're kind of already articulated very well. It's like we do this one-off activity, and we'll do it, and then we'll see what happens, and then we'll do another one-off activity. That reeks of there's no strategy. It just seems very tactic focused. I'll just keep running this tactic till it works. I'll just do one campaign after another after another. Now, what's the new way? I think it's twofold, which I will throw it back to Mary in a second. Is one is if you have a go-to market strategy, I don't even think you have this issue. Like you just know where you're going, why you're going there, and what you need to do, and you're going to go tackle it. For a lot of our peers listening and again, our listeners moving up in their career, I think you're just tasked with setting up a campaign and you don't really get to ask those questions in general. What I really want people to focus on and move towards is think about even when we talked about content in the last couple of episodes here. Okay, great. We have a content pillar. It's a podcast. I just need to distribute it. What's my distribution channels that I can do repeatedly over time? If we just flip it like that, I think people's behavior will be a little different. And they'll get out of this campaign mindset and just go into the mindset of, I need to create this valuable content. I need to keep making it, repeat it. I need to get it to my audience. The best way to do that is just to distribute it on LinkedIn ads, Google ads, Facebook ads, wherever you're at. That's not campaign specific. Again, that's repeatable content pillars that we've talked about and then distributing them repeatedly. So I'll throw it back to you, Mary, because I want us to answer the question of, if we have a go-to market strategy, is this even in contention at all?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I don't know. This is so hard. I think, especially in industrial, but I just wrote a LinkedIn post about this the other day, and apparently it's true in startups, SaaS, fintech, whatever. It's like no one has one. No one has a go-to-market strategy. So it's like the campaigns are easy, they sound kind of sexy, and they're relatively simple to pull off with not a lot of internal resources needed, right? You just ship something off and this third party does it. So I think the major gap I see is that we all agree, yeah, if you have a go-to-market strategy, then for sure it's going to be sustainable. The idea of campaigns are just like continuously feeding content pillars and, exploring new territories and deciding how you're going to innovate within it. But like that's 1% of companies. So what do the poor 99% of other companies do when they don't have one?
Totally. James, you look like you're about to follow up. If not, I'm going to riff on something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I had a question, which was, why does the campaign work? Like, what about the campaign does work? Like, why do people think that way? There has to be something attractive about it, or maybe there was something attractive about it in the past. Like, how did that become the go-to way of, not making a strategic plan about what you're going to do, but making a plan?
Yeah, this is such a good question. I'm going to tackle it first and throw it to Mary. It reminds me, I'm reading Ogilvy's Thoughts on Advertising, and
so
going all the way back in time I just think that was the way to structure activity is a client hires an agency. Great. We need to tell this story and narrative about this product. All right, we're going to make a campaign, organize our effort around it, report back onto it. I think that's where that started. And I think this last couple years, last 10 years, 20 years with all this paid ads and digital marketing, where it's become here's a campaign that's supposed to guarantee me some results. And I think that's kind of got us down the path where we've abused it a little bit. But I do want to throw it to you, Mary, in case you have another answer for James there.
Yeah, I think that you nailed it. There's limited options in how you could reach your audience, right? It was like radio, billboards, print ads, television, and all those, if you really wanted to reach a good audience, are like pretty expensive. So it's like, it was very dollars in, dollars out, right? So you could see pretty quickly the effects of, if I put X amount of dollars into this television ad, let's say, I expect to receive X dollars back to achieve positive ROI. And I think they got it. And if they kept getting it, then it worked and they moved into other channels.
Thank you for answering. I mean, I like both of your answers, and I think, I think it's one of those instances where what's important is what really is going to deliver, your ROI. You can do that a number of ways, and maybe thinking about things in terms of one-off campaigns helps you squeeze out, ROI from things that maybe wouldn't work if they were kind of thumped over time. But, maybe if one of you could go into like, well, how come, what does the go-to-market strategy do for me then? Because obviously we've been getting return on investment, thinking about things in this one-off way and being, maybe overly tactical and being overly focused on what's my ROI on this activity that I performed for the last 3 weeks, but it has to have worked. Well, what's better about, developing a go-to-market strategy and hammering it continuously?
So, Mary, you want to take the strategy standpoint? I'll come in with paid ads and performance.
Yeah, I think this mainly comes, so almost every single client who comes to us with a gap in their go-to-market strategy because they've just been running tactics and for a while they've worked, something stopped working. So it might have been COVID, it might be a competitor entered their segment, it could be they're losing market share, like something is happening and they've been feeding the tactics, but over the past, let's say 9 to 24 months, something is causing business outcomes to decline. Either that or they're looking to grow in a new segment and they have no idea how to reach this new audience with this new product. So they've tried the tactics that they've always tried and they're just not working anymore because something's happening. Either they want to grow or they're declining. So that's when they usually reach out to us because they realize so I know there's a gap in my knowledge that you guys can fill because you think strategically about marketing.
Yeah, I think from my standpoint, because tactics is the right word, is like once there's a go to market strategy, great. Now I got to scale the tactics and make sure they perform. What happens with the gaps, kind of what Mary talked about, is if there are gaps, well, how are the tactics even going to reach our goals in the right way? Like that alignment is missing. I think what happens on the performance marketing standpoint is I'm just going to continue to do tactics, bring out the performance, but maybe it's the wrong ways to really focus in on how companies grow. I think that's what the go-to-market strategy should dive into and deconstruct and break apart is like, what are the best ways for our company to grow? Maybe it is product-led growth. Maybe it is customer testimonials. It's whatever it can be. But I think we operate with the tactics first, and then tactics work their way backwards to influence the go-to-market strategy. It needs to be flipped. I think that's kind of what we're doing with asking the idea is like, is the campaign outdated? Because people start with a campaign and like they don't start with the strategy in the go-to-market strategy. So that's why a lot of people are set up for failure.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is, that maybe the real problem isn't even like, oh, we don't have a strategy, but, being forced to create a strategy kind of makes you want to talk to your customers. And, the idea of like achieving return on a campaign investment is something that feels achievable without any knowledge of your customers. You can start to look at things in terms of like, well, we can do law of averages. Like we've got a lot of historical data on like performance we can get out of this one lever that we pull. We're going to hit some amount of positive ROI on like 60% of these plays that we run. Well, like, sure, that's great. But again, you're just kind of missing the point. You could be doing something not just to, money in, money out, like you said, Mary, but you could be actually thinking about what do my customers want? What marketing strategy gives them everything they need to buy my product and love me forever? And use the strategy to guide a lifelong, marketing plan. We don't need to try something. We don't need to book 3 months for something that we know we're going to stop doing. We can only do the things that we know will continue to have impact for our customers. And maybe sometimes campaigns make sense. Maybe sometimes a one-off project makes sense, but it's never going to be the kind of repeatable, efficient, long-term value driven activity, because at its heart, it's not like, how do we help our customer forever?
Totally. One thing you said, James, that I want to reiterate, because I think that's the issue is we do these tactics to get ROI. Well, I would like to offer to our listeners and us here is maybe marketing can do something else. And it does do something else all the time, right? Maybe it's to educate. Maybe it's to provide value. Maybe as marketers, a campaign, again, is not for X results. It's so I can learn what my market is doing and then act on that. I think that's really why I wanted to tear apart the idea of campaign, because we've all worked in the agency world. I've worked in the agency world for a long time. It's what happens is someone hires us. We say, we're going to run this campaign. It's going to get you X results. I think that marketing's dead. We've done an episode on attribution. Like it's just flat out dead. So now we can invite ourselves to do something differently. And what I would love is let's retire this name campaign and let's think of the new names. That's the why. Let's start to develop a new marketing program, strategy, tactics, whatever you want to call it. But let's not do the old way because it just doesn't work for our customers.
Here's a question maybe for Mary. If you find yourself at an organization that doesn't have a go-to-market strategy, that doesn't have a kind of central focusing element that allows you to say like iterate on something kind of permanent and lasting and robust. And to this point, you're kind of pitching in on all sorts of like one-off activities. all sorts of campaigns, whether that be, all right, we're planning for the trade show. We're planning for like the pre-trade show, at the event, the post-trade show. What can you do to start to move yourself and your peers within the department, even leadership, towards thinking about something repeatable, scalable, customer focused?
Yeah, I think there's like a couple ways you can do it. You can start to become a thought leader in your own company. So you can build collaborative and strategic partnerships. So the way I did it when I was in-house was built relationships with the product managers. So we had like several market segments and a leader of each of those segments. And I just asked them about their product. Why are we promoting this product this quarter? What does the next 3-year product roadmap look like? What titles are people who usually buy from us? And sometimes they didn't know the answers, but they were so excited that someone was asking that kind of question, right? So they're just like, oh, wow, like here's somebody who wants to know a little bit more about like the real business value. So then when they also see your title as marketing, then if like a marketing idea comes into their head, you're the first person they talk to. They're like, hey, Mary, I really want to move into Instagram. What are your thoughts? And, I would give them my honest opinion. Hey, we haven't even made LinkedIn work for us. Let's make one channel where we're already at work for us. And then we can, scale into another one. And when you come at them with like strategic reasoning and thoughtful ideas, I think they're more willing to work with you as a partner. So you can do that in your own company. You could also do it on LinkedIn if you wanted to. Just, hey, this is the way that I see marketing going. This is the way I see the world working. Here's all the reasons why. And you can kind of build like a twofold thought leadership there. So both within your own company, because people in your company will see it, and then in the greater marketing community. So you can get feedback on your ideas. That worked really well for me because I did not study marketing. All my marketing is self-taught, and posting on LinkedIn really helped me solidify my thoughts on marketing, where I thought it was going and why. And I got a lot of pushback on my ideas, and I loved that because it helped me, either beef up my reasoning why I wanted to, maybe debate with that person and stick to my ideas, or change the way I was thinking. So I think just putting out your ideas and becoming an internal or external thought leader can be really powerful.
I love that thought process because I think it does relate to kind of what we're talking about is like that's an activity you could do for yourself in your marketing program. But what that is not is a campaign. And, if people just experimented with their ideas in the market, kind of exactly what you're talking about, Mary, with doing it internally, great. Those are great marketing activities that can help you understand where you can grow. But what they're not is something that's probably measurable. They're not something that I can plan out with a campaign and understand my XYZ results. That's like the essence of this show to me is like, there's just different ways to do things. And again, being in the agency world, the way we've been doing it sucks. Like, let's do it a different way. And I think if we can push people with these ideas and like, listen to Mary, do that, I bet it's much harder than running a campaign, but heck, she probably learned so much. And now she's one of the best thought leaders on LinkedIn, right? Just because she went against the curve and did something different. Like, that's what we want. I'm fired up today, guys. Been building reports, so
yeah. I'm glad you're fired up. I guess so. I'm looking at all of that reasoning, and I'm thinking to myself, like, surely, like, there are still moments when, one-off marketing makes sense, and I don't even necessarily think that maybe thinking about that is a separate discussion, but what I see as a potential trap, and I don't know if you all think it's a trap, is, say, Mary, you mentioned someone asking about Instagram, marketing on Instagram. Like, what if you're feeling successful where you're at? You want to grow marketing not by adding force to what you're already doing, but you want to try something new. You want to get on TikTok. I have a feeling that that's where the trap is. The trap of the campaign thinking is going onto TikTok with a campaign mindset. Maybe if what I'm seeing is as a potential downfall is, you go there and you have, okay, these are all the things we're going to do. And then we're going to find out whether it worked. And what it will do is not work because you just showed up, and I guess, from you all's experiences, what does it take to commit in a more full way to a new channel, without risk because the other thing is, we don't want to be here for 2 years with no results. We don't want to spend all this money. We don't want to we don't want to stretch ourselves in this way. So what's the tactic for avoiding falling into the campaign trap, but also avoiding, wasting a whole lot of your company's time and money on something that doesn't work?
Yeah, I think that definitely goes back to customer research. So if you have a go-to-market framework that you believe in and you've seen it play out, then I think almost no tactic can really fail because you already found the way that it's working and it's hopefully churning out real business results for you. So if you decide to put some of that budget into a new tactic, let's say like TikTok or, hey, a trade show, I'll throw it out there, even though, I'm not a huge fan of them in general. But if you say, you get 50%, let's say you have a super small total addressable market, 50% of them are at this niche trade show. Yeah, you should probably go to that trade show and have a booth. But again, making sure that it fits into that go-to-market framework. So what kind of content are you going to create from this trade show? How are you going to analyze the results? How are you going to repurpose what you find there into the larger strategy? So making sure it remains like a circular rather than like a firework almost, where it's just this one-off thing. And then as soon as the event is over, it dies, right?
Mary Keogh promoting trade show tactics. only
No.
on Purposeful Marketing.
Trade shows can work. Yeah, I think tactically, from again the performance marketing standpoint, like how can you make this shift from a campaign mindset to I'll use the term experimentation, which a lot of marketers already use this kind of term, growth experiments, whatever you want to say, is again devoting that time and spend, and it can be very small, very incremental, to always doing one-off efforts. I think that's the change that needs to be made, not just, all right, we're going to run a one-off effort and see what happens, but you commit to running one-off efforts all the time, right? So therefore you can say, all right, we're going to try TikTok this month. We're going to experiment it. Here's our hypothesis. Got a little bit of budget. Let's get some pulses on what works. Okay, next month, let's move to Reddit. I think as a performance marketer, you have to start implementing that stuff because there should always be things that work for you that you can scale. And then it's those unscalable things that you have to test because that's what's going to unlock growth. Now, again, not every marketing team set up that way. If you're in-house, maybe you don't have that capability. I think that's where you're going to have to do a lot of the internal marketing that Mary talked about before, working that thought leadership and help educate and articulate to others why this makes sense. But again, if we can choose to follow the old way or build a path to the new way, come on, listeners, like we're the new way people, right? I think that's why you're here. So the other thing is just perseverance. Like a lot of this stuff takes time. And it's going to take effort from you in really beating back the other ideas of saying like, you should just do the easy thing. Well, heck, we don't want to do the easy thing. Like we want to do the hard thing. That's where you learn. So again, tactically make that shift from campaigns to growth experiments. Like then you'll start behaving differently and you'll start recording things differently, reporting it differently, and acting differently.
Are there any other traps? Like if the new channel is a trap for a campaign mindset, like what are the other traps? Like what other types of conversations do people unfailingly have with the campaign mindset? Even people that have, say, like kind of broken free of that in a lot of ways. Like, are there any other situations in which people fall back into, this old way of thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I see it all the time on the opposite end of trade shows where in the moment it makes sense. They'll get a sale from it. Like they'll maybe have like one or two actual real quoted business opportunities and they get really excited about it. And that in this very small way shows them trade shows are working. But then when I come in and analyze lead source equals trade show over time in their CRM and their like ROI is 10%, so they're losing money going to this trade show. It's like, all right, like you got to give me the big picture too. Like we can't stay in the small mind thinking because that's not growth. You can't grow by thinking in these one-off ways. So I think that's a trap. So thinking in the tactic only and not tying it to greater business outcomes, that's one of the traps. And then another trap is just emotional investment. I see it all the time. Like trade shows is such a big one because they're like, but I get to talk to my customers and I get to see people I've always seen. And I'm like, cool. But don't tell me you can't invest in something that I'm telling you is growing at X percentage because that tactic feels good. So those are two really big traps that I see companies fall into.
I love that, Mary. I think sometimes I get emotionally overwhelmed with the tactic that I'm running. So maybe I need to take that advice. One I would have tactically for, again, performance marketers campaigns, I think all conversions are not equal, or all outcomes are not equal. I think as we get better on this qualitative reporting and doing those activities, like that becomes very clear that now I can't just spend money on this one-off campaign activity and get X amount of conversions, because again, that may not really tell me anything. What we need to know is like who our customers are, what their pain points are, like why they buy. A lot of that stuff is going to be from the greater strategy. It's going to be from the holistic activities we do as marketing. And it's probably not going to come specifically just from a one-off campaign that I run.
Yeah. Final thoughts, y'all? Like what? Yeah, I think we covered like kind of an immense amount of ground. Here, I feel like we were very thorough today, which is cool. Yeah, curious if either of you have, final, what's the first step if you're in an organization that's working like this, this way that we're saying is outdated. I think we landed on a yes. Campaign mindset is outdated, but what's the first step into moving in the right direction? The simple thing that you can do tomorrow.
Yeah, I think so. We're in a really unique spot. We're at the beginning of Q4 2022. So everyone's planning for 2023. See how you can, like I've heard this phrase, I'm sure a lot of you guys have too, is split the funnel. So see how you can measure everything that you're doing in marketing now, measure all the campaigns you're running in your marketing efforts right now, measure how successful they are, and keep doing them. So the big way that you can win is not by telling your company, we're throwing away all your garbage campaigns and I'm not running them anymore. It's, hey, we're going to keep doing everything that we're doing. And in my very small piece of free time, I have this go-to-market strategy that I think is going to work. And I'll tell you when I need budget. Most of it shouldn't cost us too much. And if it works, I would like to see more budget go to those efforts. So I think that's one way you can do it, is plan for what you can do in small steps to shift your company from a campaign mindset to a growth mindset.
Great ad. Yeah, I think I don't have much more to say about that. I'll tackle it more from someone running paid ads. Is specifically, you're going to be asked to set up a campaign. That is a terminology. What I would ask you to do is, when you're in those moments, now adopt that experimentation mindset. If someone's asking me to do a one-off activity, like develop that hypothesis yourself. What am I trying to learn from this campaign? Okay, great. What do I need to package so I can do the next activity better? There's a lot of learnings, a lot of free courses on this stuff. You can go to cxl.com. There's all these growth experiment courses you can take, but I think that's the mindset to adopt. And then now your behavior and your actions are going to change over time. So I think that's what I would offer, is adopt those growth experiment mindset and how you actually do marketing to unlock growth.
Yeah. The only ad I have is talk to your customers.
Heck yeah.
Please do that.
Free.
Yeah. 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 Thanks y'all for listening. We'll talk to you later.